Hey guys, Banana Lock here. Welcome back to another Watch of Realms video. So you can see we're back on the test server today because we have two new units that have arrived in the game. And first one is Sergei, which we have in the other video. And the second one is someone long awaited, that's Guan, and not sure why, but rumors of him have been going around for the longest time. I think it was due to the death interviews where they showcased someone that looked like him. And a lot of people have been hoping that this is the physical version of Alara because we don't have much tacticians and Guan is going to be the next one. And we'll have a look at his kit to see if he lives up to that hype and whether he can actually be the game changer that brings us to the next best score in Matrix. So let's get into it without further ado. Now you can see his attack range. It is a quirky one. It's a 3x3 range, and HP is pretty high, on par with Sergei. And then attack is at 5.6k, which is slightly higher than average. Not as high as the likes of Kigiri or Wukong for sure, but given that this guy is a tactician, I think giving him a 6k attack, they are probably going to feel that, we get the whole Valara situation happening once again, which is why we haven't been getting a really strong unit for quite a while. Beyond that though, rest of the stats looks pretty average. You can see a sneak peek here. Displacement is probably the fact that he can move around, ally buff, and then also some defense penetration in his kit. Now, talent. Every 10 seconds, the next basic attack changes to Crescent Slash. What does Crescent Slash do? 300% AoE damage to 2 targets, with the lowest HP in basic attack range. Now, this attack can be triggered again upon killing a target or consuming one stack of blade stuns, up to 4 extra times before entering cooldown. So it seems like there's somewhat similar mechanic to Sergei, where he can repeatedly do Crescent Slash, and yeah, every time he does basic attack, every time his basic attack changes to Crescent Slash, he gains 1 stack of blade stuns only when the basic attack of Crescent Slash kills the enemy. So his kit revolves around a lot of killing, and then after killing 5 enemies in total, gains Dragon's Eidolon, reduces attack interval by 20% and grants immunity to most debuffs. And this lasts for 25 seconds. And then Crescent Slash immediately kills common enemies with HP below 30%. So this is where the execution comes in, and this cannot be dispelled. And then the next attack changed to Dragon Crescent Slash, 150% AoE damage 2 times, and then 270% AoE damage 1 time up to 10 targets in a large area hit. Each hit inflicts stun for 2 seconds and immediately kills common enemies with HP below 30%. Gains 1 stack of blade stuns. This does not depend on the kill. And then refreshes the duration of Dragon's Eidolon if it's active. So this means that if you manage to kill 5 enemies within the 25 seconds, you will do Dragon's Crescent Slash and then refresh the Dragon's Eidolon buff again. Now we just take a closer look here. Crescent Slash immediately kills common enemies. And then Dragon's Crescent Slash does exactly the same. So there's no difference in the execution. The only difference here is that Dragon Crescent Slash gains 1 stack of blade stuns, regardless of whether there's kills or not. There's also stun in the kit, and it does way more damage. Crescent Slash is up to 2 targets, and then Dragon's Crescent Slash has that 270% AoE damage up to 10 targets in range. So that's gonna be the big AoE hit that he does compared to this one. And once again, it does 2 hits instead of 1, but I don't really see the difference because... okay, I get it. Because when the more hits you do, then the more chances that you actually execute enemies compared to just 1 hit on its own over here. So now, that's a very complicated talent on its own. Really spent quite a fair bit of time now. So let's get to his passives. Each attack deals a total of 120% AoE damage up to 2 enemies in range. Doesn't talk about targeting logic, and the wording is also slightly odd because it says total of 120% AoE damage. Not sure if that means that the damage is split equally between the two targets, or does it do 120% AoE damage to 2 units. And then first passive, Defiant Wheel, Crescent Slash and Dragon Crescent Slash restores 10% HP to the hero when triggered. So some survivability there. And deal 50% increased damage to targets below 50% HP, so building towards the execution range. And second passive, restores 3% rage plus an additional 0.5% rage per stack of blade stance. And then upon killing, only upon killing the enemy, effect can be triggered one time every 5 seconds. Now, we didn't talk about blade stance as well. It does increase attack permanently by 4%, stacking up to 5 times, cannot be dispelled. But then every time you use Crescent Slash, you can actually consume it to, get Crescent Slash going again. So even though it can't be dispelled, you can sort of use it. But now the question is whether we'll get enough blade stance to permanently keep the attack up, but at the same time be able to still dish out all the Crescent Slash. So he's looking to be quite a complicated unit just on the skill kits alone. Very interesting how we're going to be able to even maintain all this uptime. My guess is that Dragon's Eidolon can be maintained at 100% uptime, and the reduced interval is going to help quite a fair bit. I'm also quite interested to find out why he has immunity to debuffs, similar to Sergei. Are they wanting both of them to be somewhat tanks in Matrix or something? I don't know, but this seems to be the trend for most new units these days. Now, Ultimate. Upon activating it, the hero can choose to move to deployable ground tile within 3 tiles. So you can see once again, you don't actually get the platform and ground tile difference like with what we have with Valara. Instead, all the new tacticians we've had so far can only move around the ground. And upon activation, immediately gains 4 stack of blade stance, and then next attack triggers a Dragon Crescent Slash 1 additional time. So it means that if you already have the Dragon's Eidolon and you do Dragon's Crescent Slash, it's gonna trigger it 2 times instead. And during the ultimate, which lasts for 20 seconds, grants defense penetration based on blade stance stacks, ignoring 4% defense per stack, and then gains an additional 20% defense penetration while in Dragon's Eidolon state. So it means that the longer you can keep the Dragon's Eidolon state up, the more defense ignore he does. At max stacks, this is gonna do 40% defense ignore basically, which could tell you why he is gonna be very, very good in Matrix, because he does 40% defense ignored during the ultimate, but the question here is whether, with just his talents alone, will he be dealing too much damage already in Matrix? Because we all know now that, in a new Matrix meta, you want to do as little damage as possible. Now, he does have an exclusive artifact, Green Crescent Blade, increases AoE damage by 20%. I think when this is maxed out, it's going to go up to 30%. And then when basic attack and Crescent Slash deals damage, he inflicts 30% defense reduction for 3 seconds, and then when Dragon Crescent Slash deals damage, it inflicts 30% defense reduction on targets for 15 seconds. Now, I think this makes sense why it only lasts for 3 seconds versus 15 seconds, because you have to bear in mind that Crescent Slash and basic attacks, they only deal damage to 2 targets in range. So that's why it makes Dragon Crescent Slash look a lot better, because it's going to be 15 seconds to 10 targets versus 2 targets. But even then, I think the defense reduction on its own at this point in time is still a pretty big one, especially when you're looking at something like Matrix, where we don't have many units with defense reduction. I mean, you have Astrid and all that, but If you can split the units up side by side, then obviously you're gonna maximize damage a little more. And I think this 30% defense ignore is probably the highest one in the list. And hopefully, like all new heroes that I've been getting recently, they are gonna, you know, give its exclusive artifact to everyone for just completing the event stages. Now, Awakenings A1 successfully casting the ultimate grants damage increase of 20% to the hero and all other allied heroes within 2 tiles. And then caster additionally gains a shield equal to 20% of the attack. And the shield can stack up to 3 times. So it does look like the shield does not have any expiry, at least from the wording. And then 20% damage increase for 20 seconds, which is once again very nice for Matrix. A2 flat attack. A3 increases crescent slash damage multiplier by 20%. And then attack target by 1, that's great. And then Dragon's Crescent slash grants 1 extra stack of blade stuns. So instead of getting 1 stack, you get 2 stacks instead, which will build up in doing more of the repeated crescent slash. So that's a pretty nice awakening. A3 increases the ultimate selectable movement range by 1 tile. So instead of 3 tiles, we're gonna get it to 4 tiles instead. Not sure what this is for, but yeah, that's an interesting awakening. It does make sense that they don't give him more penetration, but I would have liked that instead of the 1 extra tile. But for sure, we'll be seeing some content where this extra tile comes in handy. A5 increases the stack cap of blade stuns by 2% and immediately gains Dragon's Eidolon when the ultimate is triggered. Now, this could mean that it could be quite difficult to keep Dragon's Eidolon up at all points in time, and this 2 increase 2 blade stuns by 2 stack basically means that he gets 8% extra attack and 8% extra penetration during the ultimate. So it does look like a pretty big awakening, which is unfortunately an A5. A1 is a nice one, but damage increase is normally not that big of a deal, especially when it only happens during the ultimate. And then A3 looks great as well, but I don't think any of the awakenings are as good as A5, unfortunately. And we're not sure if this guy is going to be a limited unit, so that's also another thing that's up for debate. But yeah, overall, I think A5 looks the best at the moment. We'll have to test it out. But yeah, let's get into the testing without further ado. So the first thing that we're going to try out with Guan is we're going to have a look at how all of his kit fits in together. And the way that I'm going to take a look at that is to go to Gear Rate 1 and see how all of it comes in together. I'm aware that he's a physical damage unit, so he might not be able to actually kill off any of the units here. But I'll have a look anyways and see how he fares here. Now in Matrix, we know for sure that this guy is going to be really good because he's going to be killing tons of units. But when it comes to something like Gear Rate 1, which is not the best benchmark, but let's see whether he actually does keep up in terms of damage. So right now you can see nothing in his kit. We don't have any blade stuns because we haven't killed any of these units yet. And I'm also going to put tankers in here, the anti-healer, because I want to see how he fares, ignoring all the heals. You can see he starts to kill some units here. And you can see the indicator there. We actually already have 4 blade stuns here. I think that's from the ultimate. You can see without any kills, without the Dragon Eidolon state, it does look like he's not doing that much damage. We'll pop the ultimate here again. Yeah, no units killed, he just doesn't do anything here. Okay, that's the Dragon Eidolon state. It goes into the Dragon Crescent Slash. And pop the ultimate again there. Yeah, you can see Dragon's Eidolon again. Get that golden heal around him, and yeah. If he is able to consistently kill units during the Dragon's Eidolon state, it does look like he does pretty crazy amount of damage. But that is about to end. So we're gonna go back to usual. And then that's the kills all happening. The very big thing to note about him is that he only attacks 2 targets at one go. So that's what makes his damage kind of limited. And now we have 4 stacks of the kills, so we will be able to get Dragon Eidolon state, I think, if we kill one more unit here. Nope, no units killed. Nope, unfortunate. Okay, that's the Dragon Eidolon state. But unfortunately, he's not killing any of these units because, yeah, they are pretty tanky. Yeah, you can see the damage just increases tremendously when he does the Dragon's Eidolon state. And he doesn't get much rage back if he's not killing you. So obviously, when it comes to content like Gear Rate 1, he's gonna be awful here because he is limited in terms of what he can do. But I think anything else, when we talk about Matrix, we're probably gonna see him shine really well because he is able to execute all of those units there. I mean, even right now, yeah. Able to do anything here? No, he dies there. You guys get the point. So that's Guan Yu. He does rely on a lot of kills in his kit, which also makes me slightly worried because we know that the new Matrix meta doesn't want units to be killing too much. And I think with Guan Yu in the mix, he's just going to be executing quite a fair bit in the first few rounds, unless for some reason you decide that in the first wave, for example, you just don't deploy him at all or something. Because otherwise, he is going to enter Dragon Eidolon state pretty quickly, as long as he keeps, killing the earlier level of mobs there. And you can see that there's also some timing involved. It'll probably take some time to master that, so that you can time the kills with Dragon's Eidolon, because there are 3 different things to take note of here. We have the slashes, those come out automatically, but we also have blade stuns, and we also have the Dragon's Eidolon state after killing 5 enemies. And blade stuns also comes with killing enemies, but you can also get it through different areas of his skill kit. For example, in his ultimate, but there's no way to actually get the Dragon Eidolon state unless you're killing units. So that's the reason why we see his damage sometimes is just very lackluster. But to be fair, that is Gear Rate 1, so it's probably not the best area to see whether he's good or not there. So yeah, that's his mechanics. Now we can confirm for sure that Dragon's Eidolon is not going to be coming up that frequently, unless you're able to kill off units. So I want to take a look at him in Malrik's as well as in Matrix as well, obviously, and see how he does that. Alright, so the next area we're going to test out Guan Yu in is going to be an arena. We want to just test out with another AoE unit in the game, whether he can actually keep up to when compared to the conventional Valara team. Now, this is by no ways, anything that is really good or fantastic. I just want to showcase it to see what you can expect. And we have to bear in mind as well that, with the physical teams with AoE, Arena, in test server, the mobs are significantly weaker. So what we can see here might not actually directly translate. But let's just have a look anyway. So we're going to be facing up a conventional A5 Arbiter team. And most of what we do will be similar to what the opponent does in terms of sequence. The only difference is that we don't have Pope in the mix. So let's have a look, see what we can do. So you can see that the traditional Arbiter team is going to be doing much more damage, especially if you can start proccing the lightnings. And then we're going to get this all out. And he's going to be clearing slightly faster once again because there's more damage from the Arbiters. Alright, that's done. So So now we're gonna pop Valara's ultimate once the next wave starts, similar to what we have on normal, arena. Just to ensure that his ultimate comes back in time for that next wave. I can see here that he is able to actually clear out the wave faster than us once again because the Valara is just much better boosted with the lightning on top of it. Now let's wait for a second here, drop Ingrid in, and then I'm gonna swap because we need to heal up a bit to make sure that if the next mob comes in late, we are able to deal with it still. Go. You can see perfect deployment from him so far. It's actually on our end that we are slightly lacking behind. And then now let's shift Valara to the top. Yeah, once again we are losing just slightly a bit. Not ideal, but it is what it is. I'm gonna try to see if in the later waves we can catch up. Okay, we get one win there. I'm gonna pop the ultimate there. And then we can put Guan Yu down. Now, the purpose of putting him down here will be similar to how we run Pope. We're gonna use Guan Yu as the initiator for the first bits. Yeah, you can see here once again not having the lightnings is hurting us quite a bit. And when we get to that point here, we're gonna cast his ultimate. And you can see he is able to clear that out very quickly, but it's only after the mobs move out. Before the mobs actually move out, he's not gonna be able to offer much help there in terms of damage. So yeah, he is able to keep the units away, but I don't think that's really worth it compared to the slower finish that we have here. See, once again, we're slightly slower. And let's pop the Guan Yu ultimate here. Just holding until Valara gets her ultimate up because they are unable to cross through the boundary. So you can see overall score-wise, yeah, it's by quite a large margin that we're losing by. So is he gonna be potentially any good in AoE Arena? I don't think so, because at this very moment, it just looks like he is always gonna be one step slower compared to the other units. Now, he is good insurance against the mobs that flow out in the first waves for 8 and 9, because normally that's where you get leaks because Valara doesn't have the ultimate on. But the problem comes with the compromise where if you do actually run Guan Yu instead of an Arbiter Lord, you lose out on the damage bonus from the lightning, and that is made very clear here because in the last few waves we're always losing by that small tick of damage that could have otherwise kept up if let's say we put, if let's say we actually use Pope instead, we'll probably have gotten the damage out and be much more on par with the Arbiter team that we're facing here. So yeah, that's the Arena Showcase. I mean, it's probably a relief that we're not going to get another AoE Arena meta. But there could be better ways to use him here. Maybe I have just not thought of it yet. But this is what I've seen so far. So yeah, let's get into it without further ado. Alright, the next test that we're going to be running with Guan Yu is going to be in Malrik Trials. We need to be very specific with where we place him, because in Malrik's there is 2 different mobs, and one of these mobs is actually weaker to physical damage, or rather not as resistant. As you can see, the Giant Shielders, they do have higher defense, lower magic resistance, which means that we should put a magic unit up top, and Guan Yu should be the one dealing with the Argent Crusaders, which spawn on lane 3 and 4. So we're going to try him out in this Malrik's rotation. This is the team we're running. So yeah, let's get in. The thing that I don't like already about Guan Yu in Malrik is that we don't actually have a nice team comp with him. Because in this case, we have to run him in Watchers, and then you get Leia. And Leia is sort of redundant in this case because normally you'll want one more support DPS here instead. Very much prefer like a chaotic or a curse team where the lords actually have some use in their positions. Because in this particular case, yeah, don't really find a use case for them. I'm gonna put him here, and then let's just see him in action. It does decent damage here because it is a level 3, so fairly straightforward. And you can see 3 executions there. And as this guys spawn out more often, it's gonna play into his Dragon's Eidolon state, where the more kills he gets, the more boosted he becomes. Get one more here, and yeah, there you go. That's the big boost of damage that you usually get. Just order to the front. Actually turn the ultimates to auto from here on. Should be able to clear through everything smoothly. The good thing about Guan Yu is he is a tactician, so there is benefit in the sense that he can, you know, get around things. Especially if, let's say, you have a Baron team coming in, then he could help to support the lane that's weaker. But bear in mind, in this particular test, he is A5, so he gets Dragon's Eidolon state whenever he goes into his ultimate, which benefits his output quite a bit. As you can see, in that case, he just goes into Eidolon state and then starts killing off the enemy.
Stage clear. My prayers will guide you. Break upon dwarven steel.
Another ultimate, and you can see with the Dragon's Crescent Slash, he just manages to kill off the entire team instantly. So definitely could use him here, but is he better than a Nurture? Probably not, because Nurture can hit air units as well, and there are air units that pop up from time to time in Malriks, so yeah. And you can see that the rage regen on him is not that consistent as well, because it's not as atheresis like Nurture, so without consistent flow of mobs for him to kill off, you can see that he is running a bit short on rage here. He needs a little bit of a pick-me-up to get to that state of consistent ultimates. You can see with Dragon's Eidolon state, he gets another wipe. If let's say that didn't pop there, then he'd be struggling with the waves. Another wave. Misstacks, so he's starting from scratch here. He definitely needs a support, I think, on the higher levels, because this is him at A5. And even then, there is still a bit of downtime with his ultimate. And that prevents him from, you know, doing consistent damage. Another Dragon's Eidolon state. Another wave here. The thing is that even though you can move him around, he doesn't get that much rage as well. So the moving about bit is a bit debatable, because he doesn't have enough uptime to be shifting around. Not as much as, you know, what Valara can do, for example, or like Moradin, where they actually even have enough rage to say like shift to the bottom for now. And then by the next wave, we can probably get her back up facing top again. I think that's something that he will definitely struggle with because he doesn't gain that much rage. Another Dragon's Idol on state. Oops, auto ultimate. Let's hope we can get the ultimate back in time to shift her to face forward again.
My prayers will guide you.
I can see the ultimate coming up very quickly.
My prayers.
Before we know it, Valara has it again, but yeah, Guan Yu doesn't even have his ultimate up yet.
My prayers will guide you.
And yeah, we'll just finish the last few waves here. He can definitely do decent damage just from the fact that he does do execution, but he's not as good as Nurture in my opinion. Because Nurture has stuns, burns, slows, and this guy only has stuns. And it's only on the Dragon's Crescent Slash. On the normal Slash, you're not gonna get that. And if let's say you do not have him at A5, he's not gonna go into that mode immediately. So yeah, Lara almost done here. Last wave bottom.
Break upon dwarven steel.
And yeah, there you go. One last one.
Break upon dwarven steel.
Yeah, that's the wave done. So that's, I think, probably the best way to use him. I find that if you use him up top, he does do too little damage. Even at A5, he just doesn't really quite cut it. So having him in the top lane just works out, sorry, the bottom lane just works out a lot better in my opinion. And yeah, that's Guan Yu in Malrik's. Definitely a contender, but if given a choice, I think Nurture will still be the better option if let's say you already have him. And Nurture being in Esotericis helps a ton as well in the ultimate uptime. Because right now on Guan Yu, you can see that we are struggling on some waves. If that was a level 4 wave with some modifiers, it would probably be quite tough to actually get the kills up on time to always pop Dragon's Idol on state. Yep. Alright, so next area we're gonna try out Guan Yu in is gonna be in Matrix, and this is a place where, you know, I find that he does do well in, but it's quite hard to make him work. I do believe that when people start testing him out in greater extent, we might see much better placements, positionings, as well as timings that could probably make him work a lot better. So this is the team we're running. We're just replacing Astrid with Guan Yu instead. Everything else stays the same. And I do have to say that my gear on my Adrian is not the best with Unshaken Will, and I do not have a lot of the good subs like HP, Rage Regen, so the build is not as optimal as it could be. But yeah, it is what it is. Let's get in. I'll do auto to force out the placements because I have shifted my gear around, but I'll show you guys what the placement is like. So we'll just pause here. You can see we've buffed Mina and Ardea with these two units. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to do Elder. Then we're going to do Gwendolyn. Followed by Adrian facing to the side here. And then we'll do Erlis. And then Valderon will be up top here, away from the heals. And then, let me see. Actually, I can place Valderon here instead. And then I'm going to place Guan Yu only after the second focus strike. And the reason is very simple. I don't want him to build too much stacks up in this first wave. You get the focus strike coming through. It's the first one. So you have to wait for the second one to hit, which is right about now. So I'm going to place Guan Yu down. And once that is done, I'm going to activate all the other ultimates. And then, yeah, once the bar reaches about halfway through here, we're going to activate Guan Yu's ultimate. And 1/4 in, we're gonna activate Adrian's. And yeah, you can see without the Dragon's Crescent Slash, it's not actually doing much damage there. There we go. So just fast forward here, because there's really nothing much else that we need to do in between the phase, other than casting the Gwendoline Shield midway here. Another Decay Overflow. Now wait for the Focus Strike to take place here. And I'm gonna pop the ultimate on Elder first. Ideally, I want to place Valderon's ultimate only about now, because I want to make sure that we get the potent surge. And halfway through here, proc Guan's ultimate, and Adrian's at the last. Just trying to get rid of as many stacks as we can there. Go. Now we just wait again. Focus Strike, clear that out. Yeah, now we're just waiting for the Focus Strike to happen. Gonna pop Elder's ultimate, Valderon's, and then we're gonna do Lady Mina. Halfway through, same thing, and then 1/4 left. We're gonna pop the rest. You go. Get Decay Overflow here. And we're gonna do the Focus Strike shielding again. Yeah, so it's pretty much rinse and repeat here. It's just that in the later bits, we will shift the timings for some of the units to just accommodate all the buffs and the increased damage. Go. Burst of damage from Guan Yu upon activation of the ultimate. That is also only made possible by the fact that he is A5, which gives him the Dragon's Eidolon state instantly. Alright, so over here we're going to try to pop Focus Strike a lot earlier, because we need to start making up for lost time. So we're going to pop it here, and then do the rest of the ultimates. I am a bit late on Mina's ultimate, so let's see. I was also a bit too early on Quandary's ultimate there. Okay. And right about now, another Focus Strike. So we're gonna cast the shield. Then we're gonna tank through Decay Overflow with the shield. And here, at the start of the Focus Strike, we're already gonna cast Adrian's ultimate. And here is where we'll cast the rest. Go. Alright, very nice. Second last phase now, timings are gonna get a bit tighter, because we want to out with Mina a lot earlier to ensure that she actually gets to do 2 ultimates instead of 1. I'm gonna cast the ultimate here. And then we're gonna do Guan Yu's ultimate right about now. Here we go. Nice. Now midway through, we're gonna cast the shield again. And this is where we're gonna cast Mina's ultimate, slightly earlier. And then now we're gonna wait for the Focus Strike. Cast the ultimate here. And then here is where we pop Valderon's ultimate, as well as the rest of the kids here. Last burst here. So we're gonna do ultimate there on Mina. There we go. So scores slightly at 80k. Units are all A5, but gear is definitely subpar. For example, I couldn't make any of the tweaks like using crit damage instead of, attack means. I think that would have helped quite a bit in terms of, lowering Guan Yu's damage throughout the entire run. So if we take a look at just the numbers here, you can see he's doing twice of what Mina is doing, and normally Astrid does close to about 1 million in this particular rotation. So it is slightly better, but for sure with better gear tweaking, you're gonna see Guan Yu doing a lot better than the other units here. And with Elder, Adrian, your usual guys, and then Adeya at about 2.1, which is pretty standard. Yeah. And there could be potential for Gwendolyn to actually be replaced in the future, like some people are running Liu Bu already, alongside with Astrid. But I found that in that particular lineup with Guan Yu in the mix, it does do way too much damage in the sense that we build up way too many stacks. So maybe there will be some tweaking done to make that happen, because if we could squeeze them all together, then obviously the damage potential could be a lot higher. And the highest score right now is already close to 97k on global, so probably gonna see even higher scores when we have Guan Yu landing on the global. So yeah, that's the matrix test, and yep. Alright, so that's Guan Yu in all the testings that we've managed to do. So we've done him in Malrik's arena, as well as in Matrix, obviously. I think that arena is probably one of the places where I find him lacking the most, because he just doesn't have the range to do what the other teams are doing at the moment. But in terms of Malrik's as well as Matrix, I think he's doing incredible work there. It's always nice to have a unit that has execution in the kit. As you can see here, what was it? Yeah, Dragon's Crescent Slash. Having the execution for units below 30% HP, I think that always comes in handy. And what I am a bit concerned about is the Dragon's Eidolon state. It is not as easy as we thought it would be to proc this, because you do have to have Qs. So in our showcase of him, or rather our testing of his mechanics in Gear Rate 1, you could see that without Dragon's Eidolon state, he does start to fall behind in terms of damage, without any Qs to build up those stacks. Now, if you do get him to A5, then it's a different case, because you will immediately gain Dragon's Eidolon, which triggers the Dragon's Crescent Slash. And we also get that extra 8% attack and penetration at the same time, which is why in his A4 you don't actually see penetration in the kit. And then with A3 and A1, A1 is not that crazy of an awakening. We get some shields, we get damage increase, but there's already a lot of units at the moment that provide that. So this is sort of diminished by the fact that you have Earlis that provides this, and also many other units that already do so. And then A3, there is the increased multiplier and the attack target. I think this is quite significant, because instead of 2, you're getting 3 targets, which means that you could likely be killing units more often. And then the Dragon's Crescent Slash giving 1 extra stack of blade stuns that just allows you to recast the Crescent Slash a lot more often, because every time you do Crescent Slash, you can actually, where was it? Yeah, this attack can be triggered again by killing a unit or consuming 1 stack of blade stuns, which is where the A3 comes in handy. But all in all, A5 is the biggest awakening, and we'll also need to see if this guy comes into global as a limited unit, or is he going to follow what we have on the CN servers, where he's just going to come as a normal banner unit instead of being limited, which is what people have been speculating for the longest time. He also has a artifact which is exclusive to him. The defense reduction is pretty hefty here, 30 seconds, so we can expect this to be probably in the event shop, and you definitely need this because we don't have that many Tactician artifacts that are working well. Now, in terms of maneuvering him around the map, I haven't found any particular use cases. where it becomes extremely helpful. So far in just Matrix and Malrix, you can see that he doesn't really get sufficient rage to be moving quite often, as you compare it to Valara, because his faction doesn't really have any rage boost as compared to like Nerja and Esoterisis. But still a great unit, gonna be a great addition in Matrix for sure, but whether it'll bring you to 250k at just A0, I'm not too sure about that. It could be the case because the Matrix meta currently is such that, you know, the lesser damage you deal off Pact of Silence, the better your performance will be in terms of the overall score at the end of the run. So yeah, if you have any more questions about Guan Yu, just leave it down in the comments below. See if we can actually weave in another video to test those things out. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like or subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.